Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Working Remotely. This is Sandy Lowe, and today we are working remotely with Dave Smith, founder of Inflow Analysis. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Hey, I am doing great. How are you doing?
Hey, pretty good. Week two of homeschooling. I know you know how that goes. It's always the juggle, but we all make it work somehow, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here with us. We're trying to get advice and also fun tips and anecdotes from different folks. And from what I understand, you've been doing this remote working thing for at least 10 years, right?
Oh yes, yes. I started doing this at Gartner. So funny, but gosh, up to 12 years ago, sort of on and off, remote. A couple of days at home, rest of the week in the office. But yeah, for 10 years now, I've been pretty much dedicated to work from home.
Wow, great. Well, hopefully, we'll learn something from you today. So, let's start with something fun. So, I see your office looks a lot like mine, but what are some, home based, what are some home office essentials that you feel like you must have to keep you in the zone of productivity?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I think so. Obviously, the laptop, right, and internet router for Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Those are key, right? But definitely, I think like a pre-designed area. It doesn't have to be some like dedicated big office or something like that. But dedicated room or space or some area in your house or apartment that can be used, right? So it's funny. You tend to get creative about using different spaces in your house. Now you're kind of more confined with the situation we're in with the being sheltered in. But you usually get creative over the years about different places I've gone from the basement to the backyard patio, to to do virtual meetings. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, well, whatever it takes to make it work. So, what's interesting is so you also cover collaboration and future of work. So,
Yes,
this
yeah.
is so top of mind for everybody all over the world right now. So, for some of those businesses who are finding themselves in a situation where they are not used to this virtual environment, but suddenly now need to very quickly shift everyone through a remote workforce, how has it been working for them based on what you hear, and what do you feel are sort of the keys for these guys to succeed too in this environment?
I tell you the funny. I showed you actually. I did a video recently. I think on Friday where I sort of talked about some of this stuff, right? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things is just looking at it from like a human perspective. Where it's like like honestly, just do the best you can,
Yeah.
right? Because as soon as the work from home orders came in, the amount of family and friends that reached out to me to ask me, dude, how do you do this? You've been doing this for so long. Help me. My thing is don't freak out, right? Virtual meetings, even with video, are not that bad, right? Like you said, I've been covering this space for a while, and the technology. Listen, it's not that bad. Remember to take regular breaks, from looking at your screen all day. That's going to be key. And for me, I start my day with like a morning workout.
Mm.
Now the gyms are closed. I'm in the backyard or in-home workouts are doing the trick. And so, not to sound like your fitness guru, but squats, push-ups, sit-ups,
Uh,
and jumping jacks do the trick.
you want to demonstrate? No, just kidding. No, that's good. That's great. And so, as an analyst, you guys are generally used to going on client meetings, going on conferences. Generally at this time of the year, your schedule is packed. So, how has this been for you, and what are some of the things you're doing to stay connected with clients and partners and just even colleagues?
Why, I tell you, and that's the thing, right? As someone that's worked from home for so long, it was in some ways an easy transition, right? From
Mm.
being on the
Mm-hmm.
road a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
it has changed the routine, in terms of dealing with, overseas clients
Yeah.
and even domestic too, from select in-person interactions to being even more or having to be more flexible with, scheduling calls at different times of the day or evening, depending on where, someone is, what hemisphere or time zone they're on, for the most part. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's definitely changed the routine some from sort of the regular day to day.
And then, what type of advice would you give to others who, are trying to find that balance, find that shift? I know you mentioned earlier, it's okay, if not everything is working at once and just do your best. But
Hmm.
in terms of teams, for example, what should
Yeah.
certain managers do to try to keep up the team culture? I mean, what really are the most important elements right now when there are so many changes around us?
That's a wow, great question. And forgive me if I get a little too philosophical about it, but
It's
but
okay.
from like a work perspective, it has to be like a cultural shift,
Yeah.
and obviously collaboration thrives in a culture of collaboration, and not to sound circular, right, about it, but it has to be people centric because that's who's collaborating, right? It's people,
Mm-hmm.
and so the blessing in disguise, I think, of not being forced to do it is that people will see that it's actually not that bad. Like we can actually do this, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it, it's a whole of company cultural shift approach, and hopefully I'm answering your question again a little bit, with understanding and patience and kind of encouraging people, on how to make this happen. Because I think, for me, it's really about finding that comfort zone for you and not worrying about what your environment looks like. I know some of us, are shy with video, and so we don't think we have a good professional background or what have you. You know what? Forget about that. This is it's don't worry about if the kids are talking too loud sometimes or if the dog barking. That's just life,
Mm-hmm.
and to really find the humanness, especially now that we're all having to be forced to do it,
Mm-hmm.
find the humanity in it all. Before our worlds were so separate, we would drop the kids off and no one at work saw us doing that. But now, all our different worlds is now one world, right? And where
Mm-hmm.
the kids, in my situation, the kids, are in the other room, doing homeschooling. The wife's upstairs, doing her calls, and
Yeah.
everyone. Our worlds have now merged as the one world, and so
Yeah.
it's the humanity of it all, right? We're all human, and so we're all going through the same thing. So it's sort of giving yourself a break, letting yourself off the hook. Don't worry about being perfect. No one has a perfect studio environment. I have guitars in the background. I have my water bottle here, which I fill and sip during
Oh
the day.
wow,
It's
that's a
just
big one. That's
just,
a big
just be as
bottle.
normal as possible,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, I'm really glad to hear you say that. I mean, I definitely feel the same way. It's there's a lot of research and media coverage about
Yeah,
technology, but the human factor, the emotions through all of this, the reality that each of us have to process, outside of our work environment, that plays a
yeah,
huge part here for sure. So it's
yeah.
really important to not forget that. So I'm glad that you mentioned it. So now
Yeah, and I
let's get
think,
a little.
I
Oh,
think yeah, I think so. I think, and with that, I think organizations have to build a culture of acceptance too, right? So
mm-hmm,
especially
mm-hmm.
now that people, feel comfortable, being on video, no matter what the work environment is, let people feel
Yeah,
an acceptance of that. You understand, that hey, you have kids, you may need to pick up your kids, and so I think hopefully after this. All that sort of, shaming or making employees feel guilty by having to pick up their kids kind of goes away. And now we realize that, hey, we all have lives. We're all human. So sorry again
yeah.
to
Yeah,
banter
no,
on.
it's funny because
Yeah.
you just touched on my next question, which was what is this going to be like once we beat this coronavirus thing? I personally feel that the way we work has changed forever, and I think for the better too. So, like what you
Yeah.
just mentioned too, So, I mean, would you agree that this is opening new doors? It's sort of painting a different vision of what an office environment needs to be or team collaboration needs to be. It's certainly
Yeah.
really widened that definition, I think, for the better.
No, no, yeah, you're right. It's like it's funny. Like I was saying before, right? Our worlds were sort of separate, right? But now we're realizing that we've tried to compartmentalize stuff. Again, we picked up our kids in the morning, picked them up in the afternoon. After I
Mm-hmm.
mean, sorry, dropped the kids off in the morning at school, picked them up in the afternoon, and we never really showed that part of our lives. Now
Mm-hmm.
we sort of being forced to be more virtual and collaborate, and so
Yeah.
we have to use the technology to do so, whether that be video conferencing, whether that be sort of what I'm those sort of team collaboration tools for
Yeah.
productivity, co-working, in like a virtual space, all those things now. But we have to also realize again the humanity of
Yeah.
us all, right? You love your kids, you love your family, don't never apologize for that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think hopefully moving forward from this, people realize, hey, if I pick on my kids, it's okay. Family
Mm-hmm.
stuff is okay. My video
Absolutely.
background may not be the best background, but all this is just a part of my life, right?
Yeah.
And just the company
Absolutely.
encourage their employees, to it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. Life.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, one last little question for you, Dave. So, give me one adjective to describe your remote work environment.
Um, ever changing. I guess it's a hyphenated word, or evolving is another
That's
word.
good. That's good. Why? Why do you think that?
Because again, like I said, it's always evolving. And this, these past couple of weeks, have shown me even more how much it can evolve when even
Mm-hmm.
being forced to. Because now here, now I'm in my home office here, but I used to sort of, be a little bit more loose. I would sometimes, like I mentioned, go in the backyard. I may something. Hey, I may feel like working, from the living room or the dining room, right? So I'll have my laptop out, so I'm not as mobile, even within my own house, because not everyone's here. So
Mm-hmm.
I sort of respect their space and the work that they need to do. So I'm sort of confining myself more to my own little,
Yeah.
home office, literally.
Yeah, well, no, that's a good word. Very, very accurate word for the situation right now. But anyhow, Dave, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Thank you for working remotely with us, and we hope to talk to you very soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Sandy, for having me. It's been great.
Thank
Fun,
you.
fun to talk about this.
Yes, no, definitely. You are the expert. Thanks, Dave. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good one.